Hey y'all, thanks for tuning into another episode of the Peace Podcast. This one is Just Let Me Be Seen, all parts of me, whatever that looks like. And so last week on the pod, we talked significantly about what it looks like to have those protector parts that protect us from those childhood wounds. And this week, we are going to be talking about the hidden ones, so those exile parts. So if you look at the science and just the backing and psychological research that has been done with internal family systems, you will notice that there are a lot of pieces of information around parenting or reparenting your inner child. And those exist because of the exile parts that we're going to talk about today. And I have to be honest, this weekend was a crazy fast and just lots of things going on weekend. So I wasn't going to record, but I was like, you know what? People need to hear this. So it's going to be fast. It's going to be a whirlwind, but I thought that it was super important for us to really delve into this piece of it, because we can't just focus on the parts of us that we use to protect ourselves, but we have to focus on the parts of us that we dismiss or exile. And so those are those hidden, wounded child parts within us that we try to just get rid of, shove down, pretend don't exist. And there's a reason we do this, because our managers and our firefighters exile those parts in an effort to keep us from the pain that will come up when those parts exist. And so when we're thinking about those exile parts, they are the components of our psyche that hold on to those painful memories, those hard emotions, those beliefs from the past that someone else gave to us. And those parts of us will latch on to the past traumas and start to feel the weight of shame and blame and resentment and grief and fear and all of these pieces. And our protector parts are like, listen, bro, we don't have time in our adult lives to work around those things coming up over and over again. So we're going to pretend like they don't exist. We're going to shove them down. We're not going to give them much of the attention, because if we do, then we might get stuck in a freeze response. And because we're adults now, we don't have time to get stuck in our tracks. So these parts come from that younger, fragile version of us that really dealt with a lot of pain, that really had those traumas, whether it be big T traumas or little t traumas. We tend to stifle or shove to the side some of those traumas that don't really feel like traumas. But if we process them as traumas as children, they're still traumas, even if they aren't like the big T traumas, like accidents or fires or molestation or any of those things. Those are going to be your big T traumas. But the little T ones are like 1,000 tiny bee stings over and over again, and they still rest inside of us, especially in those childhood versions of us, as traumas, because we don't know what to do with them when we're children. And because our protector parts are saying, hey, we don't have time for this as we're growing into our adolescence, as we're growing into adulthood, we learn how to function by shoving that little version of us in the corner and pretending like it doesn't exist. But what happens is it doesn't go away. And because we haven't healed it, it tends to attract and latch on to all of these other things that it equates to the same type of trauma and feelings, which compounds the feelings, compounds the pain, and eventually we get stuck in time reliving this event over and over again, whether it's while we're sleeping and we're clenching our jaw and we're grinding our teeth, whether it's during the day where we're having panic attacks and not able to control our thoughts, whether it's through depressive episodes where we're stuck in our beds and we can't even get up to get in the shower. Whatever it is, these emotions are being taken from the past and latched on to the things that we're experiencing today. When that happens and they start to get larger, they are going to resurface and they're going to start to cause overwhelm. And when they start to cause overwhelm, that's when we start to say, I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel like I can't function in life. I feel like the weight of the world is on my shoulders. I feel like I should be able to handle this, but I can't. All of those are a result of not dealing with the things that are overwhelming us internally. So when those external circumstances happen, of course we can't do anything about it because we're stuck. There's too much going on in order for us to move from that place. And if we're being 100% honest, we're still operating from our childlike state. And so therefore we're not processing like the adult we are. We're not able to move through it like we would be other things that have happened to us in adulthood because we're still using those same characteristics from childhood to get us through it. And it's just not going to happen. So those wounded, hidden parts of us are stuck in the corner. They're building up. They know that they're hidden. They want to be seen. They want to be dealt with. And they're holding on to the shame and the fear and the grief that rests in that experience. And so they're going to bring up those things over and over again. So that might look like in your past, you felt neglected. And so therefore in your adulthood, even if somebody isn't intentionally neglecting you, your inner child, those protector pieces of you are saying, I know you exiled me, but also this feels much like that. So they must be neglecting you too. Those pieces of us will say things like, when you were a child, you didn't tell an adult when you should have. These things happen to you because you were at fault for them. So because of who you are, this is why this happened. So if we don't deal with those things, we've shoved them to the side, we've pushed them. Now we have the shame and the fear and the grief that come with them. In adulthood, when we're stuck and we're frozen and we can't make a choice, those little tiny versions of us tell ourselves, this is because it's you and you can't make good choices and you couldn't make good decisions then and you can't make good decisions now, and this is happening to you because you're you. And so it makes meaning and it makes connection to those things that we dealt with when we were children, and it tells you it's always going to be this way. And our firefighter or our manager are hard at work trying to get rid of those emotions because we feel like they're too much. It's like, in order to deal with that, I'm going to have to be fully exposed. And in order to be fully exposed, I'm going to have to let some pain out. And in order to let some of the pain out, I'm going to have to let people see, like the people who are closest to me, see that I'm even in pain in the first place. And all of that feels like elongated pain. When shoving this version of me to the side and in the corner has worked to keep me feel like I'm not in pain, to keep me feeling like I can function in the world. So why would I expose it and open it up? It's a wound just like any other, right? And so if you have a scab over top of an abscess or a wound that is infected, that scab is not covering up the fact that underneath of it, there is infection. And if that infection doesn't get taken care of, it's going to spread throughout your whole body. So we're going to have to peel off that scab. And when we peel off that scab, it's going to be an oozing wound. But eventually, the things that the wound needs to heal are going to be able to be layered on it and administered to it. And when those things happen, then the wound will start to heal. But what we prefer to do is wrap a bandage around it, cover it up, hope that the scab is going to fix it all, and hope that the bandage is going to cover it all. And then when it's covered, we act like it doesn't exist, but eventually it starts to hurt. And then it starts to spread to our whole arm, and then it starts to spread through our blood, and now it's infecting our whole body. And this is exactly what happens when we exile these parts. We feel like they're too much. We put them to the side because our brain doesn't want to grow. Our brain wants to protect us. Our brains are wired to protect us. So if you want your brain to grow, you have to teach your brain how to do something differently. If you let your brain operate in the space that it's always operated in, it's going to do exactly what it's always done. And because of that, this little version of you is going to be sat in the corner, not dealing with being dealt with, but reliving those same emotions over and over again. And The only thing that's going to fix it is attention and care. And so that's when we get to the part where we heal these inner wounds that we're dealing with. That's when we get to the part where we're actually fully seen. And that looks like going through some pain, because you got to bring it up in order to get it out. And it requires gentle safety. And it's really hard to create gentle safety for yourself when no one has ever done it for you. But imagine that version of you is not this little child that you're trying to just get rid of, but instead she's a little 7 or 8 year old girl that you want to just say, hey, guess what? I see you and I hear you and I understand why you're hurt. And yes, that did happen to you. And it's meeting yourself and saying, it's okay to feel how you feel, and it's not okay that was done to you. Instead of saying, girl, suck it up and move on, because that's what we've done our whole lives, and you can't move on with that oozing wound inside of you and expect to not at some point be consumed with overwhelm and freeze. So what do we have to do? We have to give her some compassion. We have to say, you know what? It is absolutely okay to feel the way you feel. You are seen. I understand you. And it's going to feel really weird to talk to yourself that way. But like when I tell you the parts of me that this happened with, like when I was a kid, I felt like I'm not enough. No one wants to hear what I have to say. No one wants to be in the room with them. This family was better off without me in it. In fact, they probably, based on what I was told, they don't even want me in this family. Like they didn't come out and say it, but it was those subliminal messaging. And so when I became of age to choose partners in my life, I chose people who were emotionally unavailable on purpose to try to rewrite the narrative of my life to say someone who otherwise is emotionally unavailable has become emotional enough to choose you. And though it ended in unhealthy spaces and those narratives actually happened the exact same way as the ones from childhood, I had it in my head that if I picked the person who didn't even want a secure and safe relationship, and then they picked me and became emotionally available, then someone would think that I was enough. And it would prove to me that someone clearly thought that I was enough. And it doesn't work, and it didn't work for me. And the only thing that I could do was speak to the version of me with compassion who felt like she wasn't enough. And I had to say to her, listen here, little 10-year-old version of me, you were always enough. God created you as enough. And even if the people around you miss the mark and drop the ball, your value doesn't change just because someone doesn't see it in you. And those are the conversations that I had to have with myself. And to say, hey, listen, it makes perfect sense that you feel like you're not enough. It's still not true, but I hear you and I see you. And then to unburden that version of me by saying, you were never supposed to be the one who showed you that you were worthy. You were supposed to be shown that in your family system. You were supposed to be directed toward God so that He could show you. And then eventually your self-esteem would be so built by the foundation around you that there was no question internally whether you were enough. But because that didn't happen, it was not your responsibility then. But now this version of me is going to make sure that you don't have to live that life forever. So you can count on me. And then the other thing is giving that version of you permission to engage. It is okay to let those feelings come up. It is okay to feel the anger that you feel. It is okay to process it and eventually be okay with letting it go. Because sometimes we hold on to the things that we've experienced because we feel like I couldn't make good decisions then, I can't make good decisions now, I don't even know if it's okay to let it go because I'm just in trouble and I'm stuck. But this adult version of us can say, hey, you have permission to engage with this thing. You have permission to engage with me. We have permission to work through it. And we don't have to hold on to it forever. Because if we do, that's where we're going to stay, in the corner, unseen. But if we process it and we deal with it together, then we can walk into a space where we don't have to place the value on ourselves today that was placed on us in the past. But we can say, that wasn't true. And though it felt horrible then, today I can be a version of me that knows that I am enough, that knows that I was crafted for more than just the value that other people placed on me, that knows that I don't have to have anybody prove to me how valuable I am, that I can just sit in my space by myself and just know it to be true. And maybe your thing isn't that you didn't feel like you were enough. Maybe your thing is that you felt like you needed to silence yourself, or you felt like you weren't important enough, or you felt neglected. Whatever that is, those things can still be met the same way. Because until you deal with that oozing wound, you are always going to have that voice in the back of your head, that younger version of you saying, hey, can you see me now? Because I'm still dealing with the pain and the grief and the hurt, and you still hear me. I know you do. But can you see me now so that we can unearth this thing, we can uncover this thing, and we can move beyond it? And because this series that I'm doing right now is inviting you to do something about it, not just gain the knowledge about it, I'm going to invite you to do an exercise that's a guided reflection this week. And that exercise looks like, picture a younger version of yourself. The version of yourself who felt unseen, who felt deeply wounded. And write down who that younger version of yourself was and what you would want to say to them if you were being compassionate, if you were unburdening them, and if you were giving them permission to engage. And I promise you, it will change things, it will shift things, and it will start to help you to reparent yourself, to deal with the parts of you that are under there, but you're covering so that they don't come out, and to actually process the pain. If that's you today, I'm rooting for you to start with this exercise and keep it moving. Remember to keep tuning into my videos because we're going to unearth this together and we're going to work through this together. Remember, knowledge gained and kept to yourself is selfish, but knowledge shared with the world could just be the thing that they need, the catalyst for change, to get rid of the bondage that they're experiencing on a daily basis. So share this video, like and subscribe to my socials, like and subscribe to this channel, and continue to follow me for more content to get ourselves out of the spaces that we've been in and into a space of freedom. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again next time.